Welcome to Confessions of a Cleaning Business Owner. And today we're going to talk about how supermarket products are killing us. That's quite a big statement, Diane, isn't it? Supermarket products are killing us. Now, I am very health conscious, and actually, this can be taken a whole heap of different ways. And actually, a lot of our over processed products are killing us. But today, we're going to be focusing on cleaning products. So, tell me more, why are we discussing this today?
Yeah, I mean, at the risk of being called drama queens, there is a real issue here, isn't there, in our industry around health and safety, particularly, and the chemicals that we use. We've been on a bit of a mission, haven't we, around promoting the use of commercial, professional products rather than supermarket products. But I know with your train the trainer course that you did, you got a load of supermarket products, didn't you, and had a good look at them. Why do you think that they're killing us?
So it's really interesting because obviously for a long time, I've really only used commercial products. And let's start with what commercial products actually are. Because if you look at a supermarket shelf, let's say you've got a whole aisle of supermarket products. If you look at commercial, we're talking 10 times that range. So actually, commercial products are pretty much anything you can get your hands on, but it's a much bigger range. Sometimes it can be what you get in supermarkets, but in concentrate, so we can dilute it down further. But commercial products quite often are designed for continuous use. Supermarket products are designed really for what people buy, which quite often is heavily perfumed, heavily scented, not designed for continuous use. So, for example, your bathroom product, you're only going to use that once a week. You're probably only going to clean your bathroom once or twice a week. As professional cleaners, we're using that product and might be breathing it in 5 hours a day. It's not designed for that level of consumption. Does that make sense?
That is the fundamental problem of supermarket versus commercial, isn't it? Is they are designed for two different uses.
Yeah. And for example, supermarket products, they've now started to sell you concentrated products, but really, not really. What I'm seeing is things like Method do this. You can buy refillable, already diluted products, but you can't buy the concentrate anyway. So we're shipping a lot of water. It's more expensive to buy supermarket products. But really, I'm going to focus today on the health aspects because yes, you can save money doing commercial products, and I think you should, but actually, it's more about it's killing us. Okay, so let's talk about why. So, these perfumes, what's your favorite scent, Diane? Do you buy any scented products at all?
Yeah, I suppose, we all get sucked in a little bit, don't we, by the, rhubarb flavored whatever and lemon. I mean, it used to always, everything was lemon flavored, originally, wasn't it? But they've moved on from that. So people associate those smells with clean, don't they? I
Yeah.
personally don't use any scented products at all anymore, but that's only because I've become educated via our industry.
Why don't you use any scented products?
Well, because my belief is that the clean doesn't smell. So I'm just adding another chemical that I don't need. And also, I like to be environmentally friendly, and I know that those smells could potentially be chemicals that are harmful for the environment as well as for me.
Okay, so let's talk about those chemicals. Let's talk about those heavy perfumes that are in there. So, first of all, some of the best selling supermarket products are things like Zoflora or Fabulosa. We've seen a real rise in some of these real exciting scents. I mean, I don't know what they still do, but a couple of years ago, Fabulosa were releasing a new scent every week.
Yeah.
And some of their
It was a
best
big
selling
obsession,
ones.
wasn't it? They would sell out instantly, these new scents. So do they use I mean, there are things like volatile organic compounds. Is that what they use to make these scents?
Not to make them, no, they're attached to them. So
Okay.
you've got your perfumes, and let's just talk about these perfumes because when I say perfumes, people don't think much of them, right? So if we look at some of the best-selling scents, unicorn dust. Have you ever picked up any unicorn dust in real life? No, not real, is it? Lemon sherbet, that's a best-selling one. Wild rhubarb, ever come across from wild rhubarb? No, it could exist. I mean, there's a whole load of these perfumes, but really what we've got, they are just a mixture of chemicals, okay? Now, you could say that for a lot of things, but it's a mixture of chemicals. Now, to hold them in there, they are going to have to be attached to some volatile organic compounds. Then, when you spray it, and part of the issue is you are spraying it because most cleaning products are bought in spray bottles. You're spraying it. As professional cleaners, you're taught to spray it onto your cloth. So you should have a damp cloth, fold it up to use multiple different sides, and you're going to spray it onto your cloth. What most people do is spray it all around that bathroom, and this gets really complicated now. So if you are going to spray it all around that bathroom, you should then leave it for whatever the dwell or contact time is. So most products take 5 to 10 minutes to work. So let's say we've sprayed our bathroom spray all over, you then should leave for 5 minutes, give it the time to work, and then you should go and clean it off. So if you're disinfecting an area and it needs 5 minutes to disinfect, which is quite a short amount of time, but let's say that was the case, you would need to leave it in contact with that surface for 5 minutes. Now, when we're doing a bathroom, a lot of people will do that, but we can then shower it straight off. So really, you shouldn't be breathing it in anyway, because you should be showering it straight off or rinsing it straight off and scrubbing it at that point. But what's really interesting is when we're using these chemicals, for example, Diane, how should you clean a bedside table? Should you leave it wet in contact with that surface for 5 minutes to disinfect it? Well, most of us have wooden bedside tables and don't want to leave it wet because it's going to damage the wood. So then why are we using any chemicals? Because if it's not being left for long enough to disinfect, what are you really doing with that chemical? It's not disinfecting it. So why are we spraying those chemicals onto these wooden surfaces? Why are you spraying it onto a skirting board and wiping it straight off? Why are you spraying it onto anything, not leaving it to do its job? What's the chemical actually doing?
Is it because we've been trained by advertising that these chemicals are going to magically work without us having to physically do anything? What's going on? Because you're right. I mean, if it came to a bedside table, microfiber cloth and a little bit of water on the microfiber cloth is all we would use. Because, yeah, we're not going to leave anything on the surface long enough to disinfect.
No, see, and I always find it interesting when I'm training people and you say, well, what do you think that chemical's doing? They can't fathom that it's cleaning without a chemical. And I'm like, fair enough, but use the chemical properly to do what the chemical's designed to do. If you're not doing it, you might as well not use it. And then it's kind of accepting that we can be professional cleaners without using chemicals. And that's quite a hard mindset for me to go, but you're not doing anything with the chemical anyway, you might as well ditch it. And while I completely agree, you should be using some kind of disinfectant or degreaser in the kitchens and the bathrooms, because that's where we've got heavy buildup of bacteria and pathogens and grease and all kinds of things in there. Actually, for most of the other rooms, you're not disinfecting it anyway. What's the point?
Yeah.
And that's a big step, isn't it?
But that's where it comes from. It's not just the supermarkets, it's the manufacturers of these chemicals, isn't it? Convincing us all that we need them, and also that they work instantly. So it's literally you spray, and they don't, when they're advertising, they very rarely spray the cloth. They spray everywhere, don't they? So yeah, you're breathing in things that could potentially be harmful, but you're also just wasting money. You're just spraying money, aren't you?
And so the only thing it's going to do is perfume a room. It's not cleaning the room, it's perfuming a room. Perfuming, is that a word? Yeah, I think it may. I don't know.
Now.
Anyway, scenting a room. And then they associate that with clean, right? That doesn't mean it's clean. I could clean a room better than you could with that spray. Without the spray, it wouldn't smell highly scented. I guarantee it'd be cleaner. Because cleaning is removal of dirt and dust and debris. Disinfecting is then when you're killing your bacteria and pathogens, but most of them are removed just with a microfiber cloth anyway. So, I'm not a big fan of using chemicals. And then let's say we are going into bathrooms and kitchens where I do agree with using more chemicals, or you're in an environment where it does need to be disinfected. Then you're looking at chemicals, but why do you have to be using harsh chemicals? Why not use our eco-friendly chemicals, which are much safer? We personally have moved to what have we moved to? Probiotics. I really like these. And when they came about, and when I first heard about them years and years ago, I was like, that's going to be a tough sell. How do you sell to people that we are spraying bacteria all over your surfaces? And then with the rise of your Yakult, and people understand gut bacteria, and they understand that we, as humans, we are made up of an awful lot of bacteria. In fact, we couldn't survive without bacteria. And then The more I looked into it, the more I was like, so okay, let's say there is a bacteria, pathogen, let's call it a bacteria on a surface. It's much better to let it be outcompeted by good bacteria and stop it reproducing. Because if we use a disinfectant that doesn't kill everything, as most supermarket disinfectants don't, so it is going to leave the strongest bacteria on there, and then that's going to be the ones reproducing. Surely we're better to outcompete it, stop that strong bacteria from reproducing. You've still only got one on there. That's better than killing everything else and leaving that one to reproduce all day long.
Yeah, and I remember getting a test sample of probiotics. It's probably about 5 or 6 years ago now. And yeah, the guy was like, you could literally drink this stuff. It's so safe for you to use, but it's going to carry on actively working when you've left. And I suppose that we can't say that about most cleaning products, can we? That it's going to carry on working after you've stopped.
Yeah, well, if you look at most of them, let's say you put on a kitchen cleaning product and then you wipe it off, as you should do, then that surface is probably going to be reinfected from the air within, well, they say 25 minutes, but let's say within an hour or two, because you've got everything floating around anyway. So by using your probiotics, they at least stay on there and are going to stop things that land on there. They're still going to land on there, but at least they're not going to be reproducing.
And have you noticed since you switched to the probiotics that actually does the cleaning become easier, or is it because there's too long a gap in between that you're not seeing that difference?
So my biggest issue is that I've got a team and doing any change with a team is an absolute nightmare. So if I'm really honest, the day we just did it, just swap. And so we swapped them that day and the team were like, yeah, no difference. Everything's great. And that was obviously my biggest fear. Does it make any difference? Well, no, because we're only going in every week or every 2 weeks. I can cover it in bacteria, but a week later, with heavy usage, as most of the houses we clean do, which is why they have cleaners, they're
Yeah.
going to be cleaning those surfaces themselves. They're not using probiotic cleaners. They're using whatever chemicals they choose to use. So, no, for me, it's not making a long-term difference. In my own house, then it probably is because I'm only cleaning it with probiotic cleaners. It does build up. And so yeah, I do find that makes a difference. But in customers' houses, no, I've got no control what they do.
Yeah, but you know that you're not damaging anything, you're helping the environment, you're helping your team's health.
That's my main thing. It's my team's health because ultimately I'm issuing them with gloves and things like that. But they don't wear them all the time. So I want them to be healthy. But going back to the train the trainer course, so I bought lots and lots of products. And let's say the Fabulosa, and I bought some Spanish cleaning product, and I bought some oven cleaner. I bought a really big range of products. Now, on the back of all of these products, and you can go and look at these products if you've got one to hand, it says to use eye protection. So I went to the checkouts and I said, where do I get the eye protection? And I did this first. I think I did it in B&M or Quality Save. And they were like, oh, no one's ever asked. I said, but on the back of this pack that you're selling me, it says I need eye protection. Do you sell it? No. Go and try. I was in a retail park at the time. They were like, try Dunelm. So I went to Dunelm and I picked up a pack of this was Method and it says to use eye protection. And I went up to the till and I said, it says here to use eye protection. Where do I get your eye protection? No one's ever asked. No one has ever read the back of these packs and asked for the eye protection that is advised on every single product. And what shocks me is that as business owners, I'm expected to protect my staff and to follow and to do cost risk assessments and follow the advice on the back of these packs. So I can't use almost any supermarket product unless I'm issuing them with the correct safety as advised by the manufacturer, and yet I can't buy it from the supermarkets. And no one's ever looked and no one's ever asked. And I'm going, how much are we looking at these supermarket products that you could not possibly buy that along with the safety equipment that is recommended by the manufacturer? And that was quite shocking for me, having not kind of come across this for years and years because I don't use these products. I was like, there's no way you could abide by these rules.
No, and one of the challenges in our industry is the health and safety of the people working within it, and the fact that if we are using supermarket products, we're exposing ourselves to risks that we're not even reading. We're not even bothering to look at the label. And when I look down the supermarket aisle now of all the supermarket products, first of all, I look at it and I go, I'm not buying that because I've got plenty at the office, so I refuse to buy it anyway. But it's all about the pretty packaging, and it's about the pink stuff. And that's a brand, but it's actually literally about pink bottles, blue bottles, pretty ones. And I think people are just looking at the initial front label of what it tells you, the name of it, and what they might have seen on a TikTok advert or on the TV if we still watch those sort of adverts. And I don't think people ever read the back of those bottles.
No, and it's really shocking, isn't it? And I think you still see just rows and rows of putting bleach, toilet bleach. Toilet bleach is still a thing. Toilet bleach shouldn't even be a thing.
Bleach, lemon bleach, pine bleach, yeah.
Should not be
Yeah.
happening, and no professional cleaner should be touching that stuff, because not because I'm anti-bleach, and there's people that will come to me and go, I put a bit of bleach in my, what's the biggest thing they do? They put a bit of bleach on the floor, mop and bucket. So they get their floor cleaning product, whatever they choose to use, and they add a bit of bleach. I just roll my eyes at this point, because I'm like, one, you're using it with hot water, so your bleach isn't going to work, because bleach is only going to work with cold water. So why are we doing that? Why are we then mixing chemicals? What is the point? So you're mixing chemicals. Do you know what's going to happen? Are we going to be releasing some kind of chlorine gas? Do you even know? No, you don't, but you're going to do it anyway. Um, and like, so why are we adding this bleach to this? So are you doing it for disinfectant reasons? And so what are we putting in there? Are we using some kind of like fairy or, dishwashing product that's going to break down the grease? And then you're adding some bleach for disinfectant. What are you actually trying to do with this? And when you actually talk to people and they're like, I don't know, I just always have done it and it works. And I'm like, why are we doing this? What are you trying to do? If what you're trying to do is get shine, it's probably not going to work. And what's the point? And they're like, well, I'm doing it for disinfectant reasons. And I'm like, why don't you use a disinfectant that doesn't damage all the floors? Because when we're adding bleach, we're corroding the surface. It's a very strong alkaline product. So we're breaking down the surface quite often. So why don't we do one that doesn't damage your surfaces, that's still going to disinfect? Like, have we considered that? Like, but I love the smell of bleach is what I get all the time.
We still
Really?
associate it with clean, don't they? It's crazy. I think as an industry, though, we are allowing the supermarkets to attempt to kill us because we're not educating ourselves.
I don't blame the supermarkets, because ultimately the supermarkets only stock what people want. If the people didn't want these products, the supermarkets would swap almost instantly. You only have to see a trend in something. Those supermarkets react so fast. So I don't blame the supermarkets. I mean, I think they could do more to have alternative products that are not so dangerous. But you definitely see a rise in eco-friendly products. They've started to sell some of the more concentrated products as people want them. If they sell, then supermarkets stock them. So no, I don't blame the supermarkets. I think that the reason why people buy the products they buy is down to they like the scent and they associate that with clean. They've never been educated that there is an alternative or a better way of cleaning. They don't put the effort into thinking, what do these products actually do? Is this the best product for me? 90 something stupid like 99% of cleaning could be done with fairy liquid or any other version of it, which would be a lot better for you and all the surfaces. Yet, if you walk in as a professional cleaner and try and go, well, I'm going to just clean your house with fairy liquid, how do customers perceive you? So a lot of this is perception. I'm glad to see that there are cleaners that do just do it with fairy liquid, and that's great. And as long as they're brave enough to justify themselves, actually, I'm fully behind people like that. What winds me up is when you see the cleaners with 40 different chemicals in their boot, and let's not even talk about keeping the chemicals in your boot and the whole disaster that we're going to see there, that they're evaporating and so they're too concentrated. We're denaturing a lot of the active ingredients. There's a whole heap of problems with keeping them in your boot, but to have 40 there, it's just ridiculous.
I think, and that's because, do you not think that's because they're seeing, oh, I need that, I need that, I need that, because the product industry is telling us we need this whole range of products just in case. And it's just like, I mean, you're the same as us, we have like, I think we have maximum 5 products in our regular cleaning kit. And most of our, actually, you say 99% of things can be cleaned with fairy liquid. I'd say 80% of clean things can be cleaned without chemicals. You know,
Yeah.
you literally don't, it's mostly your own physical elbow grease, actually your effort that is the cleaning, not the products. And we actually say that to clients, you know, we try not to use that many products because our team are there to clean, not the product.
I think, I mean, you could say we've got four products. Technically, it's five, but I'll explain why. So we have a kitchen and degreaser product. We have a bathroom and washroom product. We then have a separate toilet cleaning product. But if I'm honest, it's the same product, but in a different bottle to squirt it under the ring. But it's the same product because then they're not reacting. And the biggest accidental way to combine products is to put bleach down the toilet or whatever you put down the toilet and then to spray the rest of it. It's almost impossible not to mix those products, and they will release a sort of gas. It catches you in the back of the throat. But anyway, yeah, so there's a whole different, so we use the same product, so they can't combine because mix them all you like, they're the same product. I do like a cream cleaner because there are
Yeah, we
times
do
you
too.
need a bit of abrasive. So it doesn't matter to me whether you use the pink stuff or barkeeper's friend or cream cleaner, they're all an abrasive product of some kind. Um, would I have them all? No, just pick one and do that. And then once we've got all of those products, of which really I've only, oh, sorry, and then I've got what have I got? A general purpose one, which is um it's general purpose. It does break down a little bit. It is a bit antibacterial, kind of is general purpose. If I'm honest, I probably could use the bathroom or the kitchen one, but they are slightly more acidic or alkaline. So this one's just pH neutral. In all honesty, one product could do the same as all of those, plus a cream cleaner. I mean, ours are slightly more effective, slightly more degreasing, but I mean, what I don't need is I'm never going to have a silicone polish. No polish should ever be used. The way that you should look after real wood furniture, that's the right word, real wood furniture, you should be using a beeswax polish or a French polish, a proper polish, and it's going to take you half an hour to buff it in by fingertips, and that needs to be done once every 6 months to a year, depending on the furniture. When you spray something in a layer of silicone, all you're doing is literally spraying silicone over it. Does it smell nice? Well, if you like breathing in silicone, probably to you, yes, it does. To the rest of us, absolutely no. You're never going to be able to remove it. So, how many cleaners ruin priceless furniture spraying your Mr. Muscle, your Mr. Sheen over it? And as a beekeeper, right? Beeswax polish, okay? If you can spray beeswax polish, it isn't spraying beeswax because beeswax is a hard substance. And in order to make it sprayable, you would have to mix it with some real nasties to make it sprayable. You know, even when you look at your beeswax polish, some people disagree with adding terps to it and various things like that, which is what you're going to need. I personally add olive oil to my beeswax to make it usable and soft. You cannot put it into a can. It just is literally impossible to be done without adding so many nasties that we're now so far away from beeswax that you're just spraying.
Tin, Louise, it's even got a pretty honeycomb on it.
Yeah, well, Marjorie shows butter and cows on the tin, but I can guarantee it's just oils and
Made of
various
plastic.
cereals and like this. You can put pictures on the tin without it actually being in there. So yeah, that's not great. That's in fact that's really bad. Let's not have spray tins of anything. And as for this, what was it that people did? This spray tin that you put behind your radiator that came out from Fabulosa recently.
Yeah.
It was to clean the back of your radiators. You spray it down there. None of that's needed. If you need to clean the back of the radiators, go and buy a radiator brush and just stick it down there and remove the fluff
Yeah,
and the dust that builds up. Do
job
not use
done.
any kind of pressurized canister. It's ridiculous.
But aren't these cleaning products, like I said, just being sold because people think it means they don't have to actually physically do anything? So I remember, I think it was Sif brought out a foam mousse thing, didn't they, for the bathroom? And it was just like, yeah, you spray this everywhere in your bathroom and then you just rinse it off and that's it, job done. And it didn't work. Sorry, Sif, it just didn't work. But that's what's being sold, isn't it? That it's, you don't need any physical effort with these products.
And I think, yeah, you've hit the nail on the head there. You know, people will buy anything to make cleaning easier. And that's why you've got your 40 different products because it makes cleaning easier. But it doesn't make cleaning easier. And I always say this to customers, it's our hard work. Cleaning is hard work. You can give us any products under the sun. And there are products that do make it slightly easier. And by this, not products, you know, like these sonic scrubbers and these
Yeah.
scrubbing brushes. If you've got mobility issues or you need to reach up a bit higher, I do quite like the idea of these scrubby brushes. I don't use them because most of us are mobile and able enough to do it. But if I had mobility issues and I wanted to reach down into the bath, a scrubbing brush, you know, the ones that twizzle round, they're slightly better. But again, the product isn't going to do the work. It's still a mechanical action, whether it's you putting the work in or whether you're battery powering whatever you're doing. I mean, yeah, what I don't like is things like these carpet mousses. What are you doing? What on earth are you doing with those?
But
Like,
like you say, it's just anything because cleaning's hard. You know, we all know this. Everybody that's got a cleaning business or who has cleaned for a living or cleans their house, it's physically hard work. No matter how much of it you're doing, it just is. So the fact that all these products are telling us, well, all you need to do is spray and wipe. You don't need to actually put any effort in. It's just a big fat lie, if I'm honest, because I've just never found a product that actually lives up to its claim in that way. You know, there are things that, like you say, that make it easier. Like washing up liquid is a brilliant degreaser,
do you
but
know,
you
I
still have
think
to actually physically wash things.
on the adverts, so what they do is they put the product like on the floor, and then there's a little note that says 10 minutes later. But of course, you don't even have a break. There's not even 5 seconds because that's not a very good advert. So they do say 10 minutes later, but of course, none of us read that. They go, oh, you put it on and you just wipe it clean. Well, one, that's very staged and that dirt is made to come off. And two, you've still got to leave it the recommended amount of time or the desired amount of time. And I think this is where our education comes from. We're watching adverts and thinking it will work. By the advert's own confession, it's not going to work the way they're showing you it's going to work.
We just see the glossy bit, and also we as professional cleaners, we would like it to be easier. We would really love it if you could spray a product on a surface and then you just go back and it's miraculously, you don't have to wipe it, you don't have to do anything. It would be amazing. Self-cleaning houses would be amazing. You know, it's like the robot vacuums would be amazing if they were as good as getting into all the corners. But they can be a nice sort of help, but they're not, unfortunately, the solution. I wish they were.
Do you know, I'm thinking I might get a robot vacuum. So my house is not suitable for a robot vacuum, but I have massive rooms. And actually, like you couldn't go from room to room, but I could just put it in a room and do a different room each day. I'm thinking I might do this, Diane.
We've been tempted, but for the very reason I've avoided it because I'm like, oh, I'd have to. But then I think, yeah, I could put it in a room.
Leave it to
The fact that
work.
it can't go from room to room because we've got steps and things like that. But yeah, it could do a room. Yeah, I have been tempted by the ones that mop and vacuum. I have been very tempted by one of those.
So we've got all carpet now. I don't hate carpet, right? That's a lie. But we've got all carpet in our house, and that is not my choice. It's only because we haven't changed it yet. We bought the house and it was all carpeted. So actually, I don't even need the mopping. I could just have my robot vacuum, and we've got two dogs, and dog hairs build up. I think this is, but again, you know, there's no easy solution. You're still using a mechanical solution. And even with robot vacuums, and this is what they found when they did it in hotels, you need a human to go around because it doesn't do the edges properly. But if I only had to do the edges, that would be really easy.
No, and my sister's got a robot vacuum. In fact, I bought it for her for Christmas a few years ago, and she absolutely loves it because she's got a busy family and she just sets it going. And yeah, it does it. She's all on one level mostly for the ground floor and then upstairs. And yeah, she absolutely loves it. But yeah, I have been putting it off. But I've already bought myself a birthday present, so I can't buy myself a vacuum, but I might get one in the near future.
Do you think we both should? If I bought you a vacuum and you bought me a vacuum,
That could
then we wouldn't
work.
be buying vacuums, would we?
That could work. Yeah, I like that, Louise.
And do you know, it's the kind of one you could just put on the business. I think I could justify a robot vacuum for a cleaning business. I can see
Yeah.
that one.
Yeah, I think, well, we'd have to try it as well, wouldn't we? So,
Definitely would have to try it. Do you know the problem I've got with buying a vacuum? Like every technology that we buy, you can get a robot vacuum for what, 200 quid? But of course, I'm not going to buy the 200. My husband, who's a tech addict, is going to go, yeah, but Louise, I don't know if you've seen these, like the eye mop ones, and they're like, well, I don't know how much they are now. They're probably
They
50.
empty themselves, don't they?
And really good. And there's a Makita one, and like the Makita one is about 2 grand. And you just know that he's going to go, wow, let's put that one through the business and buy that one, And so this is why I'm not allowed to just buy a cheap, how do you say them, FE ones of some of the most popular
Yeah,
ones.
yeah, they're the cheaper ones, aren't they? But yeah, if they do the job, they do the job.
Do you
Yeah,
know, Diane, it's got to
Gareth will
happen.
not be convinced by that though, will he? He's definitely I'm gonna buy the best model.
Yeah, of course, of course. Anyway, on that note, if you've got any questions about products, because what we've realized is actually this information is just not getting out there, and we'd love to discuss it more and more. There's only so much we can cover, even in a podcast, and we don't go into a lot of depth. What we would really love is ask us the questions. If you ask us a question, we'll share the answer far and wide, because if you've got that question, other people will too. So we'd love you to get in contact on the podcast. Do you know, Diane, actually talking the podcast, do you know we've had nearly 85,000 downloads?
Wow.
We've had 3 comments ever. They all come online and see us on Facebook, right? So please, guys, I'd love a review on the podcast. It would be really good because we actually have no reviews. Or we might have one review, but no, maybe one. Comment on there and review us would be amazing. So if you want us to keep producing this, please give us a review and please ask us questions on these because we'd love to answer the questions that matter most to you guys.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.